Welcome back, listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence, where we explore the mysteries of the universe, consciousness, and personal transformation. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving deep into something really very interesting and crucial: spiritual awakening and the journey of oneness. Now, how does human consciousness play a role in this awakening? And why does it sometimes feel like the world is taking two steps forward and one step back? And to help us explore these profound questions, I am honored to welcome Kerie Logan. Listeners, now let me share a bit about Kerie with all of you. She has been empowering people for over 2 decades as a therapist, hypnotherapist, empowerment strategist, and spiritual advisor. She has received numerous accolades, including Best Coach of the Year and Best Hypnotherapist for 14 consecutive years. Her work spans past life regressions, trauma healing, and quantum healing hypnosis, helping people align with their higher selves and live the lives they truly love. So, with that, Kerry, I am absolutely honored having you here with us today. Welcome to the show.
You for having me, and I'm honored to be here as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Carrie, let's talk about spiritual awakening. We all have read, heard somewhere, sometime about spiritual awakening, but it can mean different things depending on who you ask. So, from your experience, Carrie, what exactly does it truly mean to be spiritually awakened?
For me personally, I would say is this complete awareness of oneness with everything around you, where there's no separation. You look at everything. I mean, even this microphone in front of me, the chair that I'm sitting in, is something that is beautiful that was created, if you want to call it God, source, divine love. It is created. It's a piece of that material. And it's
Mhm.
beautiful and it's divine. And you end up having this deep respect and appreciation for all of God's gifts and all of God's creations and all the resources that we have. And the hard part I see with what's going on in the world right now is there's so much fear mongering, just fear, 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 fear. And when we get stuck in fear, that disconnects us from source. It disconnects us from our spirit, from our spirit guides or any support systems that are waiting for us to guide us out of that fear and up into the light where you can look at things from a higher perspective instead of a fearful ego state of consciousness. So for me, the journey of spiritual enlightenment is becoming one with the vibration and essence of love, of joy, of peace, of divinity and personal empowerment where I just am thriving in life and loving life and making the most of my life. And that's what I would like everyone to, eventually experience on this planet.
That's such a beautiful explanation, Kerry, and I love that you also included the uh, you know the non-living objects or things around us as well, because let's just admit it, because if the sources were not discovered or invented, we wouldn't have all these facilities or options or gifts with all of us. So it's equally important have that gratitude for living as well as non-living things, because let's just admit it that this planet, this mother earth, is the source of all these beings. So thank you for sharing that. And also, do you think everyone is embarked on this journey, whether they realize this or not? And if yes, What are the signs that someone is experiencing an awakening?
That's a great question. When a person starts to think for themselves and make choices for themselves and is really feeling like I'm in control of my life,
Mhm.
that's a big step of courage, okay? And we've all seen people that are mature adults in their body, but they're not mature adults in their head. And something always happens in a person's life to where let's say you're stuck in a hole. You're in a really big hole of pit of despair and unhappiness. And to get out of that hole, the very first step is courage. You've got to have the courage to and be permitting to get out of that hole to where you can become more balanced, grounded, and centered and clear minded. That's where you're productive and you're willing to try new things. And so the next step up would be where you can be neutral, where you can see things like a conflict from either side. You're not taking sides. And you can release the old, and the world no longer in your mind is like black and white. You feel more safe and secure. So you then start to become more optimistic and you're willing to face your inner issues. You have higher self esteem. You're patient, you're helpful, you're hopeful, you're inspiring. And then, yes, as life happens, you become a moment where you're going to need forgiveness. And all of us on this planet, when we make a mistake, the very first thing we say to someone we care about is, please forgive me. Forgive me. And in that category is accepting everybody, their skin color, their religion, their background, their gender, sexual preferences, all of that. That's part of, I call 40 human consciousness. And in that realm is where we find our spiritual awakening because God is love.
Yeah.
And if you've ever experienced God, it's something it's so profound. It's like that saying, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So once you experience God, it's so profound. It's like this feeling of immense love and where you could do no wrong and you just feel so accepted and so adored and appreciated. And when you have that moment, we should
Mhm.
always listen to God's, guidance. So a good example of that is a friend of mine just got divorced and he is still stuck in grief and despair. And he says that when he's praying, God tells him to just go into the peace.
Mhm.
Just you now have peace. You're not married to this woman anymore. The woman had lots of issues with drugs and all kinds of stuff. And but he kept getting stuck in despair and stuck in the grief. And I explained to him that God is trying to raise you all the way up to 5D human consciousness where you can look at her and have mercy for her and peace for her and forgiveness for her and you're learning how to love her unconditionally. You can't live with her, you can't be in a relationship with her, you can't even be friends with her, but you can still love her because she is a child, she's a child of God and she's created out of light and love just like you and have mercy for her journey. And that's what, God's trying to say to you is connect to that peace, to give yourself peace of mind and to, stop looking at your past as it was horrible because I told him that whole experience with that woman, she was your greatest teacher. What did she teach you? She's teaching you unconditional love. She's
Mm.
teaching you forgiveness. She's teaching you to go within and understand why did you attract a person like that? Why? And and how to not continue to repeat that pattern. Because if you don't learn these lessons that she's here to teach you, you're going to keep repeating it. And that's why I told him there's no mistakes. You should, because he said, I have so much guilt with what happened. I said, that's not the mindset you need to be in. There's no mistakes, there's only lessons. And the sooner you learn the lesson, the sooner you're going to be free. But right now, your past is stuck in your face and you keep holding on to it. And so every time you have a thought of this woman pop in your mind, look at it as that's an opportunity to go within and say, I just forgive this woman and I bless her. I tell people do the Honopono Ono, where you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you. And at first when I said it, he was like, I don't think I could do that. And I said, no, let me show you how you do it. You say, I'm sorry that I couldn't give you the love that you felt you deserved. And I'm sorry I didn't read the red signs, the flags, when I knew they were there, but I dismissed them and excused them. And I love you because we have a child together, and that child is precious and special. And please forgive me for being so confused about, what was going on with you and how I might have been unkind to you or said hurtful things to you. So please forgive me for that. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. Thank you, for the daughter that we created together. And I love you for that gift we created. And so there are lots of ways that people can shift their mindset out of the pain and suffering and up into enlightenment and one with our creator.
Absolutely. And I also believe that love and forgiveness, it starts at an individual level. First of all, you have to love yourself. You have to forgive yourself, not being judgmental of the past mistakes you have done or any blunders you have done. Um, and then punishing yourselves, because that in some way or the other reflects externally as well. And that's where that individualistic approach converts into collective awareness. So, uh, also, when you mention about God and higher selves, do you believe that God dwells within us, or it's that some kind of higher, universal power or force, uh, in there, and that is guiding us?
One, I believe that
Mm-hmm.
we are all God because we are cut from the same cloth. So our spirit, our soul, if you want to, call it that, that is a part and an essence of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that can guide us and direct us in many ways. And there are moments where our higher self does talk to us, and sometimes people listen and sometimes people don't. And learning how to listen to that voice and become self-aware of that voice, I think is critical and key in the very first step of spiritual enlightenment. Because once you hear that voice and you recognize that voice in your head, you can form a relationship with it. And pretty much I tell people when you do, every time you hear it, show your gratitude and appreciation and say thank you, thank you, thank you. And even if you don't understand sometimes the messages that you hear, still listen to it and be grateful. Cause so for example, one time I was lying in bed and I was kind of struggling with some thoughts about a presentation I was going to do.
Mhm.
And the voice in my head said, do you know that you humans create narcissistic people? And I was like, what the heck? Why is that head popping in my head? And it said, look it up. And when I went to the computer and I looked it up, it was 100% correct. That was a voice from something higher up. And when I spoke to a psychiatrist about it and I asked that question, he was like, bingo, how did you know? And I wasn't gonna tell him, "Oh, God told me," or some higher source told me. And so it's learning to listen to the voice and honor it and respect it. And you'll know the difference between your ego or the inner critic because it will shame you or guilt you or make you doubt yourself. But sometimes we get messages that are like, "No, this is something that's gonna help you and support you."
Hmm.
It's like every invention that's ever been made was first a thought.
Exactly.
Exactly. And some of those were it's like people that are musicians, they can hear the melody playing in their mind.
Yeah.
Where's that coming from? You know, art people that are artists, painters, they see the image in their mind first. That's
Mhm.
something from up above saying, "Paint this."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. True. And now, talking about the idea of oneness, it is central to many spiritual teachings. But as you mentioned in the initial part of the conversation, we live in a world that often feels incredibly divided. I mean, sometimes on really very trivial, silly things. Uh,
Yes.
how do we reconcile this contradiction?
Well, I look at it is I'm only in control of me
Hmm.
and the way how I think and how I feel and how I respond and how I act. And I'm a firm believer of you need to embody what it is you seek. So if you seek forgiveness, you need to be the essence and presence of a forgiving human being. If you seek unconditional love, you need to master unconditional love, especially in the most challenging moments where, let's say, you love someone, but you know they're not good for you and you can't have them in their life because they're just too toxic. You can love someone and still not like them. And that's a really hard concept for a lot of people to grasp because what you don't like is their personality,
Yeah.
is their habits, their behaviors. You don't
Mm.
hate the person. I mean, I don't hate anyone. It's what you don't like is the childish, immature behaviors that they still cling to and they haven't evolved, spiritually or even, matured as a human being. And so when you raise yourself up to this higher level of human consciousness, like 4D, 5D human consciousness, your whole view of the world is different. It's really, it's different. And I remember listening to the audiobook by Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth. And it
Mhm.
was fascinating how he talked about birds because for and I could totally relate to it because there have been moments in my life where I am so full of joy and happiness and peace that I went outside and I picked up 2 wild birds. I literally picked them up and talked to them as if I was Snow White. And my
Wow.
husband laughs at me how he calls me the Pied Piper. And we live on 7 acres and we have at least 40 wild turkeys that come on here.
Wow.
I've had clients literally feed the turkeys with me. And they're like, I can't believe they're so close to you and they hear your voice and they come running up and they're excited to see you. And I said, because I love them and they love me
Yeah.
and they know that I am safe and peaceful and joyful, and they're chirping at me, and it's to me, it's magic because there's this energy of, "I'm joyful to see you and be with you." And people that see these wild turkeys say they look like little dinosaurs, dinosaur birds. But it's so cool to have that interaction for me with these wild animals that should be afraid of me. But when you are that essence and presence, you embody this. You're no threat to anybody or anything, and people feel it. You don't have to advertise it. They
Mhm.
feel it just by being with you and around you. And I mean, and imagine what the world would be like if all of us mastered the upper rooms, if we all mastered human consciousness, there wouldn't be war, there wouldn't be violence, there would be no starvation or hate crimes or any of that. We would be living in the world with that all of our hearts, I think, desire to have. Some doubt it, some think it's impossible, but it is possible. You just have to do the work. And you have to believe that you can do it.
True, true, absolutely true. And I totally can picturize. I mean, animals, I guess they understand the language of love better than us humans. Uh, I mean, whether it's domesticated or undomesticated animals, I think they understand the language of love better than us. So I think we can all seek some inspiration. We can learn from them. So that's such a beautiful, example you gave. And also, Kerry, let's look at this from a different perspective. So, generally speaking, awakening isn't always an easy process because many people they have to face fear, confusion, maybe a sense of loss. So, according to you, what are some of the biggest challenges people face during spiritual awakening, and how can they navigate through them?
I think the biggest challenge is outside influences
Okay.
because I remember having a conversation with my brother who actually is a strict Christian, knows the Bible inside and out.
Mhm.
And when I had my spiritual awakening and I told him what was happening and what I was seeing, he was like, "There's no way you should know that. There's no way." Because I've never read the Bible, but I was telling him, "No, this I mean, I was shown the Lamb's Book of Life. I didn't even know what that was." And so when I was having this conversation, he said, "The only way you can really be one with God is if you read the Bible." And I looked at him and I shook my head and I said, "Dude, that is so that I mean, I'm just gonna it's a crock. It's a load of crap because I have the most beautiful
Mhm.
sacred relationship with God, and I found it through spirituality. I did not find it through reading the Bible or going to church. And I said, what matters most to me and everyone is however you get there on your journey, it is your journey. If you're Muslim, a Buddhist, you're a Catholic, a Christian, you're Hebrew, whatever it is, when you that's your personal sacred journey. And there's so many outside influences that people tell you, "Oh no. No, you can't be one with God unless you do this path."
Yeah.
And it's garbage. It really is. Your journey is your sacred journey and you should honor it and respect it. And sometimes I tell people you don't have to share your journey with other people because they might talk you out of it or they might make you feel stupid or weird or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's their deal. That's their issues, not yours. So sometimes when we're going and seeking spiritual enlightenment,
Mhm.
it is golden to be silent at times because you first really need to own it. You need to embody it. It needs to become a part of you and the essence of you. You're not just because I mean, how many people go to church and they listen to the great sermon, but then they go out and they do whatever.
Mm. Yeah.
And they're not following the teachings. They're not applying the teachings. And I think that's the biggest downfall with a lot of religions is they're not holding people accountable and really guiding them, showing them how to be a better human being.
True, true. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more because it's about embracing the teachings of the practices at least. Uh,
Yes,
I don't think it's just the religion. God will never say that you follow whatever I am saying. It's your own journey, it's your own sacred journey. You are that God within you.
correct.
That's really
Yeah.
really a great point, Kerry. Really great point. And it really makes me wonder that um, why exactly some people, they resist awakening out of fear. Uh, Also,
Well,
talking
it's
about.
the fear of who will I be?
Hmm.
They're afraid of the death of the old self. It's kinda like I know Jesus made some comment, I've heard it say before, that not until you die before you've actually physically died will you realize that you are immortal. And we are. We're all immortal beings because this vessel will decay and die, and then I will go back up and I will find a new vessel to occupy.
Yeah.
All of us do this. You know, there some people say, "Oh, ginger cats have no soul." That's that's such a joke. It's a lie. That cat does have a soul. And and to really realize that our spiritual awakening is all about us becoming one with God again and aligning with that godlike presence and then becoming it and embodying it and treating people just like Jesus. He was loving, peaceful, forgiving, accepting, he was courageous. We have to embody all those traits. I mean, that's what I think religion is trying to teach people, but they don't even know how to do it themselves.
Exactly, exactly. The interpretations are really not in the right direction. Ah, great. And apart from this, other external influences, like technology, media, societal structures, do you think these all play a role in either accelerating or hindering awakening?
It can do both. It can accelerate and it can hinder. Why I think it can accelerate is it connects you with other like-minded people across the globe, which
Yeah.
is great.
So,
Where it interferes is what we're seeing now is attention spans are shrinking.
mhm.
A lot of people are comparing themselves to other people's success or wealth or fame or things like that. Um, and I'm just gonna be real transparent here. If you look at movies nowadays or shows on TV, it's so much violence and so much gore that just feeds more hate and more fear and more despair. And so you have to think about it. It's the things that we watch and we engage in is fuel for the mind, is fuel for the emotions. So what are you feeding yourself?
True, true. That's
Yeah.
the dollar question. Great. So before we wrap up, Carrie, this enlightening conversation, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you, how they can do that?
So my name is spelled Kerie, last name Logan. And the website is Master the Upper Rooms. And on there, there's a bunch of free images and information like what's 3D human consciousness, what's 4, what's 5. There's free ebooks, even some free MP3 downloads. And if anyone wants a consultation, I do a 15-20 minute free consultation just to see, if we're a good fit and how I could better support you. And if I can't support you, I always make suggestions and recommendations. I mean, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. There's lots of places. I'm even on Insight Timer, the meditation app. So I'm
Hmm.
on that as well.
Wow. Great, great. So we'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes. And Kerry, thank you. Thank you so much for this transparent, transformative conversation. I absolutely appreciate your wisdom and insight. So I would encourage all of our listeners to check out the show notes and connect with Kerry and refer to her resources, connect with her, because when one individual will have spiritual awakening, then it will be a collective, it will be a ripple effect. So thank you so much, Kerry, and to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the Cosmic Confluence. If this conversation has connected with your heart, be sure to subscribe to us, be sure to connect with Kerie, and also share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep expanding, keep questioning, and stay connected to the cosmic flow. Thank you.